What's up everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great and that you're following the 3 H's of the channel. In this video, there's no real overarching theme, it's just a bunch of truly strange and scary encounters. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, pull up a stump with me and let's get into it. Thank you for watching. Alright, I have a story. So I must have been about 18 with 2 friends. We drove a couple of miles out to a public park. The kind of place with several soccer fields, a couple baseball fields. There was a river nearby, and this entire area was largely surrounded by woods or farmland, depending on where you were. It was a secluded dozen square miles or so, in a relatively average suburb area. So anyway, it's probably around 11 at night. We decide to go to the swing set that's close to the parking lot in this public park. We were on the swings for a few minutes, laughing and having a good time. There is grass around the swing set. About 20 yards behind it is woods. All of a sudden, I see out of the corner of my eye, right on the edge of the grass in the woods, a sort of tall, tan, human-looking figure. I see it make a motion of some kind, and then it opens its mouth, and the weirdest noise comes out. Not a screech or a yell, but the sound of a tree breaking comes out of its mouth. It sounded almost like a heavy stick hitting the trunk even. One of my friends yells out, "WTF was that?" Immediately, all 3 of us book it off the swings and sprint to the car. We get in and speed off. For the next minute, all 3 of us are pretty much in shock, basically yelling, "What was that? What the hell was that?" To this day, several years later, none of us have any idea what we saw or heard. I try to rationalize what it could have been in my mind, even if it was just a weird animal or like a sick buck with antlers. I don't know how it made the noise. And I only think of a buck because that's the most similar color that I can think of. My best guess is that it was someone in a costume screwing with us, but I honestly have no explanation other than that what it could have been. Especially that time of night in that area, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Crawlers can keep up with a car that is driving 60 plus miles per hour. I'm speaking from experience. I encountered the damn thing on my own block, close to a river, lots of creeks. It's very dark, and there's not a lot of people at night. I was hanging out with a friend. We pull up to a neighborhood, still being built to drink some alcohol. We pull to the end of the straight road that ends at a wood line, underneath a lamppost. The moment that we pulled onto the road, the mood rapidly changed from relaxed to feeling very unsettled. This discomfort only got stronger as we parked. We parked backwards just to make a getaway faster because of this deep unease that we were now feeling. By the time we park, my body is screaming at me that something is watching us, that something is dangerous in the wood line. We weren't parked for more than 5 minutes, and we didn't even drink anything, because as I was looking through the back right window, I saw this patch of white skin showing through the darkness about 10 feet away from the car. The moment I saw it, I was hit with a powerful adrenaline rush, even though I couldn't make out what it was. It was such a foreign and unusual texture that I instinctively knew that whatever it was is something that I've never come across before. I freak out. I tell my friend to drive, and as we drive out of there, I look back and I see this long-limbed, skinny humanoid thing running on all 4s, fast across the road. It was chasing us. As we hit a main road, me and my friend finally had a second to process what was going on, and we both began to panic, because we saw another one in a crouching position out of the back left window. We drive to Walmart, which, while empty, was well lit and had security cameras. And this thing, it trailed behind the car on the 2-mile drive. Most of the roads along the drive are unlit as well. The thing followed us to the Walmart, though we didn't see it for a time. It was about 1:15 at this point in time. Me and my friend cried and started maniacally laughing several times. We didn't know what to do, but we knew that Walmart would be reasonably safe. We had parked towards an unlit road on the side of the Walmart, lots of bushes in that direction. We saw it in these bushes off in the distance. I could see a gray mass moving, what looked like eyes reflecting back, and at one point the bastard even stood up. It was rather tall, but far away enough to not have a quite clear view of it. We tried taking pictures, but the phone was old, and the camera was genuinely potato quality. The worst part for me personally, mentally, was when we had decided to leave for water at a 24/7 gas station in the central part of town. It was about 2:30 when we left Walmart. On the exit of the parking lot, there was a light in a wooded grove area. As we waited, the light stuck at red. My buddy tells me that he can see something moving in that area. I look, and as my eyes get used to the dark, I could see the upper area of its head. And the worst part is, I locked eyes with it. I couldn't look away. I couldn't blink. I felt like I was in hell. I felt like my brain was on fire. The adrenaline was rushing through me. While still locking eyes with it, it was looking right back at me. I told my friend to run the red light, which he did with no hesitation. The moment I lost direct eye contact with it, I burst into tears, instantly and uncontrollably. Like I said, my experience basically traumatized me, and I was relatively safe. Do not lock eyes with these things. It's such an ugly experience to go through. I felt like I had been up for days on end when I finally got my first cup of water after that. So in the spring of 2013, I was out training dogs with the rescue team. The idea was to go out on some trail and basically just let the dogs find you. So I started down this path that goes to some old coal mine. I found an old set of stairs made of concrete, but they only go up one level. There's also an old shed in there amid a big wall. It looks good to me for a place to hide, so I hide in there next to the wall. While I'm in there, I notice that the wall, which is about 25 feet tall and 30 feet wide, has a huge hole in it. The hole is easily big enough for a guy to get into. I look into the hole and I hear water drip. I have a big ass flashlight with me since it's at sunset. I shine it in. The other side of the wall goes in really deep. I'm still seeing darkness on the far away parts. I sit there and wait for the dog to find me. Once the dog does find me, it starts acting weird and skittish about going near the hole. We think it's a little weird how the dogs are acting, but we still have work to do, so me and the trainer go set 3 more trails on the other area away from this hole. Fast forward to the weekend. It's a Friday night. We're all bored as hell. We're sitting at the fire department with 2 junior firefighters. I tell them about the hole. I get the smart idea to get our 1900 lumen flashlight, basically a spotlight, and go there. We eventually arrive at the hole. There's no moon out, so it's extra dark. This is a small town, so there's no light pollution either. The junior firefighters are kinda scared because of the stories about the guy dying out there working on coal equipment. So we get the spotlight and we shine it in. It lights up a giant borehole where they extracted all the coal. I shine the light on the deep part, and then we hear this awful noise. It sounds like the Jurassic Park venom spitter thing. It doesn't sound close, so we're not exactly shitting ourselves yet, but we have goosebumps all over. The other guys want to leave. I keep looking in the hole, but not about to go in. I keep examining it, and then I see a giant grizzly bear-sized thing. It looks like a rat with scales. It's about 50 yards away. I turn the light off and we try to walk away without being loud. We use just regular flashlights now, and then we hear the muffled sound of a man screaming for help. As soon as the yell ends, all of our lights just go out, completely dead. We're left in the darkness. We all turn and haul ass down the steps and run to the road where I parked and just get out of there. So to start off, this happened in Indonesia when I was in middle school in the early 2000s. So I'm staying at my cousin's house, which is about 3 kilometers from what is basically a jungle. It's still a suburban area, but it's really not populated. At around 8 p.m., we get that teenage kind of urge to explore at night. So we prepare our gear, which is just flashlights, some lighters, boots, and that kind of stuff. We decide to buy some extra batteries for the flashlights because we've read some spooky stories about things happening when you're out in the woods. So on the way back from the store, we see an old man, probably in his 40s, hugging a younger, probably 30-year-old girl. We see them quite closely as we pass by with our bikes. So the weird story starts here, basically. We arrive at the woods, we park our bikes, and then we shine our flashlights into what is basically a dark abyss that is the jungle. After exploring in the woods for about maybe 20 minutes, we already are lost, which we were like, great. So we find a small river in the forest, and we decide to rest near it to try and gather our thoughts and figure out where we are. And then suddenly, we hear footsteps. We hear the sounds of something moving through the grass and bushes. At that moment, I didn't know why, but it was our instinct to turn off our flashlights and lay on the ground behind some bushes. We see the previous older man carrying the unconscious girl we recognized his clothes. They were walking over a small crest, which was about 1.5 meters in the ground. He walked straight through the bushes, not even trying to avoid them like normal people would do. His eyes are heavily focused facing forward, and then we notice that his skin is basically turning red and is very sweaty. We can hear his breathing. He's getting closer. He's maybe 20 meters away, and he stops and stands still for about 20 seconds. While we're looking at him, all we can think is that we've been caught and something terrible is about to happen to us. But then he puts the woman down and opens his own clothes and then picks the girl up again, and we think, what the hell is he gonna do to her? His back is suddenly really hairy. This guy is suddenly having some kind of seizure while standing up. We notice that the hair is spreading throughout his body gradually. His hands are becoming longer and bigger. We watch this man become a black ape-like creature, and then he continues walking across the river. We notice that there's now a distinct animal smell, like think of a zoo smell in the area. We freeze on our spot. We just sit there for 5 minutes or more. My cousin starts discussing about what the hell are we gonna do. We're still lost. We don't know where we are. He ends up just choosing a direction, and then we sprint like hell. We fall, roll on the ground, and get our legs cut up, maybe 100 times. We can finally see the edge of the forest. We think we're lucky. We follow the asphalt road to the parked bike. It ends up being only 300 meters away. We mount the bike hurriedly. I drop my helmet. We stall the bike. We're just in such a panic. My cousin drives like an American race car driver through the swervy roads. Before we know it, we hit a huge pothole. The bike falls over and dies. Both of us are on the ground. We pick the bike up, but it won't start. And this is not some horror movie cliche. If you ever dropped a bike, you know for a minute or so it won't start. Bikers can confirm this for me. It eventually starts. We get the hell out of that foresty road. We arrive at my cousin's house. My aunt had come home earlier than expected. She was very mad at us for being covered in mud, being out so late, for my cousin stealing his father's knife, and the bike now needing repairs. We find out later that there's a legend about this. The legend is that there's this ape-like creature almost closer to a cryptid, but it's not a physical creature like a Bigfoot. The creature can shapeshift into human. Basically, they attract pretty young women, kidnap them, and then take them into the forest and usually take some kind of energy from them. And if they resist, they essentially get killed. We got very lucky that whatever the hell that thing was didn't see us. We go back to the woods in the morning to retrieve the helmet. There's still a trace of the same animal smell from the night before. As for the girl, she apparently is fine. She woke up in the woods. She was very delirious and tired. For days, she walked around like she was in a fog, not really knowing where she was or who she was. To some people, these stories may seem funny or like a joke, but here, they're all too serious. I decided to join my bestie, Karen, for a 3-day stay at her grandmother's place on the res. Her grandmother lives near a place called Tuba City, Arizona. It's in the middle of nowhere, but surrounded by rural homes. We go to college together, and I was kind of interested to know about the Navajo tradition. The first day we stayed, it was pretty chill, nothing out of the ordinary. But then her grandma, not that old, maybe around 67, said that a stray dog came out of nowhere and would not leave. To me, it did act a little strange, and it was kind of ugly looking. It had a black shaggy coat and looked like a mix between a German Shepherd and a Lab. That night, we were watching a movie in the living room. They had big windows that looked out into the front where the cars are parked, nothing fancy, with the curtains wide open. Grandma was in the kitchen cooking dinner, and we were just watching a movie. Next to the window is a medium bookshelf where the DVDs are kept. Karen went to put back a DVD that we had just watched, but she freaked out because that stray black dog was staring at us through the window, standing on top of the wood box outside. This is not something normal dogs do from my point of view, or hers. Usually, my dog, which is a big house dog, scratches the door to be let in. Res dogs aren't house dogs, and dogs inside houses are frowned upon in Navajo tradition. It's meant to protect the house and owner. The other dogs seem to stay away from it. Karen opened the door and yelled at it to get off the box. It ran off behind the shed. We went to Tuba City to get some groceries and came back to the house. The dog was nowhere to be seen, nothing unusual. Grandma went to visit some people, so it was just Karen and I. At about 5 o'clock, we heard someone trying to open the door. Both of us looked out since there had been no car and no dogs barking. Looking out the living room window to the door, there was the dog trying to open the door with its paws. 2 paws wrapped around the brass doorknob, standing on its hind legs. I thought that was really weird, but I wasn't freaked out. Karen was. She opened the door and chased it off. Grandma came back and Karen told her. Grandma did not like what she heard. She got ready to sleep. We slept in the spare bedroom since it had 2 beds. One window with curtains was open a little. We turned off the light, and there was a sound coming from on top of the roof. It was a pitter-patter of footsteps and scratching sounds and panting. It then sounded like something jumped off onto the large plastic water barrel they had. At first, we heard what sounded like barking, but as it grew louder, the other dogs seemed to be barking at something also. But all of a sudden, something was running around the house barking, and it was no dog. No, it wasn't. The barking sounded human almost, a very deep male voice, barking like it knew that we knew that it wasn't a dog. After doing this, it would pant again by the window. We started freaking out. Karen decided to, and in my opinion was stupid, open the curtains to look out. There was the stray dog, on its hind legs, looking into our bedroom this time. It stunk, and what I thought were 2 black holes in the neck were another pair of eyes. Think of those twinkling spider eyes. The paws were deformed-looking hands with overgrown, somewhat thick and sharp fingernails. Again, both of us started screaming and shut the curtains closed. Grandma came running through the door and seeing it, the first thing she did was grab ashes from the fireplace, load 3 shells into the shotgun from under her bed, blessed herself in Navajo, and went outside to shoot it. She was yelling in Navajo about how the thing wasn't welcome there and to get the hell out of there, for it to go linger somewhere else. Them both being traditional, the next day they called a medicine man to come over and put cedar in. He prayed over everyone with cedar smoke and an eagle feather, blessed the place, and made us eat bitter herbs called eagle's gall, or something similar to that, and gave me an arrowhead. Apparently, I needed to carry one for protection and a little pouch called a corn pollen. It seems to work pretty well. The medicine man said the dog was a skinwalker, but in Navajo it's a long word that they call them yoshis. The body of the stray dog, which was killed by the skinwalker, made an illusion so that we wouldn't know it wasn't a real dog. He also said that they tend to harm people by using some sort of human bone straw to spit at someone. Think like spitballs, only deadly. And then they get human bones into them. Doctors can't detect it, but the medicine man that day pulled a piece of human skull out of Grandma's right shoulder. It was pretty big, 2 inches long and 1 centimeter thick. It was real because we watched him pull it out of her. It was intense. Those encounters were pretty intense, weren't they? If one stuck out to you, let me know which one it was down in the comments. If you have one of your own that you would like to send into the channel, I have an email in the description below that you can send them to if you'd like to. Also down in the description is a PayPal and a Patreon if you would like to donate or support the channel that way. And with that, I think I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for pulling up a stump with me, and thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and have a good week.